So if you could go back in time and meet yourself writing your first script right there, what advice, and of course this goes along with the viewers as well,
Sure.
Transfers to viewers that are working on their first script.
Right.
What really valuable piece of advice?
Well, funny you should ask, because I actually teach classes in this
Nice.
at Screenwriting Expo, and I've done it for the network as well. The biggest piece of advice I would say is don't hurry. The biggest mistake all emerging writers make is they think their first script is wonderful, they think it's going to sell, and they're going to get $1 million and be on their way. Never happens. Unless you are some sort of prodigy, your first script is guaranteed to be terrible because you don't know what you're doing. It's like asking a medical student to perform brain surgery on their first day of medical school. Script writing is an art and a craft that takes time to learn. It takes a lot of years. Some people do it faster than others. We all have our own pace. But my biggest advice to somebody writing their first script is wonderful, get through it, get some feedback on it, write another one. Because that's the best way to learn, is by getting the feedback and then turning what you hear into your next script. And most people, I've interviewed a lot of writers through the network and through other events. Most people don't hit their stride until about their third or fourth script, at least. Like I said, I got my agent with my third script, but it still wasn't that great, and I've tweaked it over the years, and it's currently under option. But it takes time. The very first script I ever wrote, I made all the mistakes. I submitted it to the Nichols. I tried to get an agent. Looking back on it, it was just a disaster because it was horrible. And even though I'd been to film school and kind of knew, what I was doing, it was still bad because it was my first time out. But that same script, I ended up rewriting and rewriting over a period of about 10 years. That got me 2 different managers and ended up getting optioned, and it got me my first produced gig.
Nice.
Because I submitted it to a production company as a sample, and they hired me I ended up writing 3 movies for the Sci-Fi Channel.
Nice.
Thanks to that script.
Very cool.
So don't blow off your first script, but just rewrite as you get better. If you've got a really great idea, go back, rewrite it, redo it, and if it's a really good idea, eventually you'll turn it into something that can sell.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. So let me ask you: are you primarily television or film?
Film. Even though my first sale again was to Star Trek, that was more of a fluke than anything else because I never had much desire to write for TV. I love TV. I have a lot of friends who write for it, and people tell me I would be good because I'm a very fast writer, but I don't. Mostly what I watch are sitcoms, and I don't have the mentality to write for a sitcom. And I don't watch enough hour shows to be able to write, although I could write for Sarah Connor Chronicles, I love it, but very few hour shows have ever captured me enough to make me interested in writing for those. So again, because of the Star Wars thing and movies, I'm a movie buff from way back, so I've always written films.
Cool. Very cool. All right, so let me ask you, what are the types of things that you gravitate towards when you like to write?
Well, I've written stuff in almost every genre except contemporary drama. My whole feeling with films is they should be escapist. I admire people who do, straight dramas and powerful issue films and stuff, but that's not my cup of tea. I'll never forget my first day in production class in film school. They went around to everybody in the class saying, what kind of films do you want to make and all this stuff, and everybody was talking about all these art films and things. And I just looked at them and said, I want to be the next Steven Spielberg, which is still my goal to this day. But I want to make fun films that, take people away for a while. So, but again, I've written period films, I've written romantic comedies, straight comedies. But what I've been focusing on in recent years, mainly due to the advice of a very prominent agent in this town, is I've been trying to brand myself in the sci-fi, fantasy, horror range. All my sales seem to have been, except for that one romantic comedy, all of my successes have been in those genres. So I've kind of been trying to brand myself in those arenas, and I've been focusing mainly on writing mostly sci-fi with some fantasy, and I've written 2 horror scripts. I'm also big into vampires. I have my vampire trilogy, I call it. I have 3 different vampire scripts that one's currently under option, and another one was under option, but they couldn't do anything with it. And the third one I just finished, so it's just going out now.
Now, with the vampire genre, do you, there are general blanket rules for
Yes.
vampires, and they're easily broken as long as they're given an explanation and stuff like that. Is there anything sort of really out of left field, radical, that you take to your vampire?
No, I'm very much a traditionalist, which actually is kind of hurting me. I actually was talking to a good friend of mine at Paramount last week who had read my newest, no, he actually had read one of my, no, actually he just read my newest one. And that's one of his complaints, is that my stuff tends to be more traditional. I am very much, they have to live in coffins, they have, this and that. I mean, I break it to some extent now. My newest one, I did do one thing I've never seen before, which I'm hoping will be the hook that sells it, in that it's a vampire time travel. When he bites someone, they go back in time. So it's kind of an interesting twist on it, and people have liked it so far who've read it. So I'm hoping that will get me the entry. My other two scripts are much more on the traditional in terms. In fact, one of them is a prequel to Dracula, direct prequel. So I had to be faithful to the book as much as I could be in that one. And that's one of my dreams. There's never been a definitive version of the book, in my opinion. I mean, the Coppola version was pretty close, but they still added stuff that I didn't think should have been in there. So that's one of my dreams, is to do the definitive movie version of the book Dracula. So.
Right.
And since Cameron beat me to the definitive Titanic movie, that's still my only dream. That's my other obsession, is to the Titanic.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I read the book A Night to Remember.
Yes, great
which is,
book.
If you read the book first and then you watch the movie, you're disappointed.
Yeah.
Because all the stories in the book.
He left out so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I still love the movie. I think it's a great movie. I don't know if I could ever do better. But there are so many Titanic stories that he could have told that he chose to drop. And the original movie of A Night to Remember is actually pretty faithful to the book.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Yeah, it's a British movie made in, I think, 57 or 58. But it's pretty faithful. But again, it still can't encompass all the stuff going on. So what I did was I actually did a futuristic version of Titanic.
In space?
No, actually on Earth, but it incorporates some science fiction elements.
Nice.
But it harks back to the Titanic. One of the main characters is the great-granddaughter of the captain of the Titanic. And so I managed to throw in a lot of my Titanic knowledge and lore in there while creating what I think is a really cool futuristic sci-fi story. So.
Wow. Okay.
So
I like that.
Gotten some good reads with that one.
That is a good idea.
Did a major rewrite on it last year, and been getting some good buzz. So I'm hoping that will sell soon.
Nice. Okay.